Have you ever woken up at 3:17 a.m. for no reason? No sound. No dream. Just a feeling that you had to wake up. And then you hear it. Knock, knock, knock. If that has ever happened to you, then there's something you need to remember. Never open the window at 3:17. Chapter 1. The room on the 7th floor. I moved into the apartment on a rain-soaked evening. The kind of evening when the whole city looked drowned in shadow and neon reflections. As if the streets themselves were trying to forget what had happened there. I had just taken a new job. In a place far from anyone who knew my name. And the building had seemed like the perfect answer to all the practical problems of starting over. The rent was strangely cheap. The location was decent. The landlord was in a hurry. He barely spoke while handing me the keys. And when I asked why the previous tenant had left so suddenly, he only said, "She moved out fast," in a voice so flat it sounded rehearsed. Then he glanced toward the elevator. As though he didn't want to remain inside the lobby any longer than necessary. The apartment was on the 7th floor. Even before I unlocked the door, I noticed how quiet that hallway was. Not ordinary quiet, the kind of silence that old buildings keep at midnight, but something thicker. Almost unnatural. As if every sound had been swallowed before it could reach the walls. No televisions behind doors. No footsteps. No plumbing. Not even the distant hum of voices from other units. Just the soft buzz of the dying fluorescent light above me. Flickering once every few seconds like a failing heartbeat. Inside, the room smelled faintly of dust. Wet concrete. And something older that I couldn't identify. The furniture was sparse, a narrow bed, a small table, a crooked lamp in the corner, and a wardrobe with one door hanging slightly open. But it was the window that pulled my attention first. It stood at the far end of the room, wider than it should have been, framed by yellowed curtains that stirred even though the air was still. Beyond it was a narrow alleyway far below, squeezed between two blackened buildings. So deep and dim it looked less like a real place and more like a crack in the earth. I remember standing there with my suitcase still in my hand, staring at that window, and feeling something cold slide through me. Not fear, not yet. It was the feeling of arriving somewhere I had already seen in a dream and never wanted to return to. I told myself I was tired. That long days, long train rides, and unfamiliar cities could distort the mind. So I unpacked. I placed my clothes in the wardrobe, stacked books on the table, plugged in my phone charger, and tried to claim the room with the small rituals of ordinary life. But the longer I stayed inside, the stronger that feeling became, that I was not alone in the apartment. That something had been waiting in the corners long before I arrived. Patient and unmoving, watching me settle into a place that did not belong to me. At one point, while folding a shirt, I became absolutely certain that someone was standing behind me. The certainty was so sharp that I froze mid-motion. I could almost feel the presence at my back, not breathing. Not moving, only existing, close enough to touch. I turned around so fast the shirt slipped from my hands. No one was there. Only the bed, the lamp, the wardrobe with its open mouth of darkness, and the window. The curtains moved again. I stared at them for a long time. The glass reflected the room in a warped, dim outline, and for one horrible second, I thought I saw a figure standing near the bed, too tall, too thin, its head bent at a strange angle. But when I blinked, the reflection was only mine. Outside, the rain continued to fall in long silver lines, tapping softly against the pane. Somewhere below, in the alley, something metallic clanged once and then went still. I crossed the room and touched the window latch. It was cold, far colder than it should have been, cold enough to make my fingers ache. I pulled my hand back immediately. That was the first moment I thought about leaving. Not because I had seen anything, not because anything had happened, but because every instinct in me, every buried animal nerve that knows when darkness is wrong, was already whispering the same thing. You should not stay here tonight. But I was tired, broke, and too embarrassed to admit that an empty room had frightened me. So I locked the door, closed the curtains, switched off the lamp, and lay down in the dark, listening to the rain and the old building settling around me. For a long time, I could not sleep. And just before I drifted off, I heard it. A faint sound from the direction of the window. Not loud enough to be called a knock. Just 3 soft taps. As if something outside had learned I was finally here. Chapter 2: The Knocking at 3:17. I didn't remember falling asleep. It felt less like sleep and more like something had quietly pulled me under, dragging my awareness into a place where time no longer moved the way it should. One moment I was lying in the dark, listening to the rain fade into a distant hush, and the next, my eyes snapped open. The room was silent. Not the kind of silence that comes with night, but a hollow, suffocating stillness, as if the entire building had stopped breathing. My chest felt tight, my skin cold. I turned my head slowly toward the digital clock on the small table beside the bed. 3:17 a.m. The numbers glowed in a dull red, flickering once, then stabilizing. And then I heard it. See. A soft, uneven sound. At first, I thought it was inside the walls, old pipes, shifting wood, the usual noises of a decaying building. But no, this was different. It was too deliberate, too careful. It came again. Knock. I froze. The sound came from the window. Not loud, not urgent, just a slow, patient tapping, as if whatever was out there wasn't trying to break in, but simply announcing its presence. Knock, knock? 3 times. Always 3. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I didn't even blink. Every instinct in me screamed not to look. The air in the room had changed. It felt heavier, colder, pressing against my chest with a quiet, unbearable weight. Even the darkness seemed different, thicker somehow. Like it had substance. Like it could reach out and touch me if I let it. Knock, knock, knock? This time it was clearer. Closer. I swallowed, my throat dry as dust. My eyes shifted, just slightly, toward the edge of the curtains. They weren't moving anymore. The rain had stopped. Everything had stopped. Except that sound. Knock. A pause. Knock. Longer pause. Then. Knock. My fingers tightened around the bedsheet. I could feel my pulse in my ears. Slow and heavy, each beat echoing louder than the last. There was something wrong with the rhythm. It wasn't random. It was waiting. Waiting for me to react. Waiting for me to get up. The thought came into my mind, uninvited and sharp. If you ignore it, it will stop. I clung to that idea. I stayed still. I shut my eyes. Seconds passed. Or minutes. Or longer. Then, knock. Right against the glass. So close that I could almost feel the vibration through the air. My eyes flew open. The sound had changed. It wasn't coming from far outside anymore. It was right there. At the window. I turned my head, inch by inch, until I was staring directly at the curtains. They were completely still. But something was behind them. I knew it. Not because I could see it, but because of the way the darkness gathered there. Thicker than the rest of the room. Like a shadow that didn't belong to anything inside. Knock. This time, softer. Almost gentle. Almost polite. Like a request. A single, quiet thought formed in my mind. So clearly it didn't feel like mine at all. Open it. My body reacted before I could stop it. I sat up. The bed creaked loudly in the silence. The sound slicing through the room like a scream. I winced, but the knocking didn't stop. Instead, it changed. Tap, tap, tap. Faster now. Impatient. My feet touched the floor. Cold. Unnaturally cold. I stood up slowly, my legs weak. My breath shallow, my eyes locked on the curtains as if they might move at any second. Step by step, I moved closer. The closer I got, the colder the air became, until it felt like I was walking into something that did not belong to this world. Tap, tap, tap. Right on the other side. Waiting. I reached out. My hand hovered inches from the curtain. And for a brief, flickering second, I thought I saw the faint outline of fingers pressing against the glass from outside. Long. Thin. Not quite human. I stopped. Every part of me screamed. Don't. But something else, something quieter, deeper, whispered back. Just a look. My fingers trembled as they inched forward. And just before I touched the fabric, the knocking stopped. Completely. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. Because now, it felt like whatever had been outside was no longer outside anymore.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 3: The Woman on the Sixth Floor. Morning should have made everything feel stupid. That was what I told myself when I opened my eyes to a pale strip of daylight leaking through the curtains. Morning was supposed to reduce terror into something explainable. It was supposed to turn monsters into bad dreams. Turn whispers into old plumbing. Turn that thing at the window into stress. Exhaustion. Imagination. But the moment I sat up in bed, I knew the night had been real. The room still felt wrong. Not dark, wrong. The air carried a stale, refrigerated chill, as if the apartment had spent the entire night with its lungs full of winter. My neck ached from sleeping in a twisted position, and when I rubbed my face and looked toward the window, I felt my stomach tighten. The curtain was slightly open. Only by an inch or two. I was certain I had left it fully closed. For a long time, I just sat there staring at that narrow slit of gray light, trying to decide whether I was misremembering or whether something had touched it while I slept. I wanted to believe it was the first one. I needed it to be. But then I noticed something else. There were marks on the glass. Not cracks. Not rain stains. Finger marks. Long, blurred streaks trailing downward from the outside of the windowpane, as though someone had pressed a hand against the glass and slowly dragged it down. From the 7th floor. I didn't go near it. I got dressed too quickly, nearly dropping my phone twice, and left the apartment without breakfast, without coffee, without looking back. The hallway was just as silent as it had been the night before. The fluorescent light still buzzed overhead. The same weak flicker. The same sickly white glow that made the walls look damp and diseased. I locked the door and hurried toward the elevator. But when the doors opened, I saw my own reflection in the mirrored panel at the back and nearly recoiled. I looked terrible. My skin had gone pale. There were shadows under my eyes so dark they looked bruised. But it wasn't that unsettled me. It was the split second before the doors fully closed. In the reflection, I thought I saw someone standing at the far end of the hallway behind me. Tall, motionless, too thin. I turned around instantly. The hallway was empty. By the time the elevator reached the 6th floor, my hands were shaking. That was when the doors opened and an old woman stepped in. She was small and narrow-shouldered, wearing a dark cardigan buttoned all the way to her throat despite the humidity. Her silver hair was tied back tightly, and her face had the sort of stillness that made age look less like weakness and more like endurance. She carried a cloth shopping bag in one hand. At first, she didn't look at me. Her eyes stayed fixed on the numbers above the door. Then she sniffed the air once. A small movement, barely noticeable. But after that, she turned to me. Not to my face. To the space just above my left shoulder. Her expression changed so slightly most people would have missed it. A tightening around the mouth. A pause in the eyes. Recognition, but not of me. 7th floor? She asked quietly. I nodded. For a moment, she said nothing. The elevator hummed downward. Floor 5, floor 4. I could hear my own breathing. Then she asked, "Did you hear it?" I felt the blood drain from my face. I should have lied. I should have laughed and asked what she meant. But there was something in her voice, something flat and exhausted. The voice of a person who had repeated the same warning too many times and watched too many people ignore it. So I answered, "Yes." Her eyes closed for one brief second. When? Last night. She nodded as if that confirmed something she had already known. At what time? I didn't want to say it. Even speaking the number felt dangerous. Like giving shape to a curse. 3:17. The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto the lobby. But neither of us moved. The old woman finally turned and looked at me directly. Her eyes were clouded with age. But there was nothing weak in them. Only fear. Old fear. The kind that had lived too long in the body and settled into the bones. "If it knocks again," she said, "do not go to the window." I stared at her. "What is it?" Her grip tightened around the handle of her bag. Instead of answering, she asked, "Did it speak to you?" A chill ran the entire length of my spine. "No." "Did you look through the curtain?" I hesitated. Not fully. That seemed to matter. I saw it in her face. Not relief exactly, but something close enough to it that I hated her for having it when I had none. She stepped out into the lobby. And for a second I thought the conversation was over. Then she stopped without turning around. The last tenant looked. She said, "The one before you. A young woman." She said it was only knocking because it wanted help. I swallowed hard. What happened to her? The old woman was silent long enough that I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she said, very softly, "No one saw her leave." The elevator doors began to close. She lifted one hand and stopped them with surprising speed. This time, when she looked at me, her face seemed older than before. More tired, more certain. "Listen to me carefully," she said. "If you wake up and the room is too quiet, do not move right away. Do not answer if you hear your name. And no matter what happens, no matter what you think you see outside, do not open the window at 317. Then she let the doors close. I stood there alone in the elevator as it descended to the underground parking level. Even though I had never pressed that button. When the doors opened, there was no one there. Only a concrete corridor, unlit except for one weak bulb swaying slowly overhead. And for the briefest moment, from somewhere deep in the dark below the building, I thought I heard it again. 3 soft knocks. Chapter 4: The space between the curtains. I didn't return to the apartment until late. Not because I was busy. Because I was afraid. The entire day passed in a blur of unfinished tasks and distracted thoughts. I couldn't focus on anything. Every sound reminded me of it: the knocking, the stillness, the way the air had changed at exactly 3:17. Even in broad daylight, surrounded by people, I felt watched, not in the ordinary sense. Not the casual paranoia of a tired mind. But something far more precise, as if whatever had been at my window had not stayed there. As if it had followed. By the time I stood outside the building again, the sky had already gone dark. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet, reflecting the flickering lights of the street like broken glass. I hesitated before going in, staring up at the 7th floor. My window. From below, it looked like any other. Closed. Dark. Empty. I told myself that was proof nothing had happened. I told myself I was being irrational. Then I stepped inside. The hallway felt colder than before. Not just temperature, something else. The air pressed in on me. Thick and stale, carrying a faint smell I hadn't noticed the night before. Not rot, not mold. Something closer to wet fabric left too long in darkness. I reached my door and paused. There was a sound coming from inside. Soft. Almost too soft to hear. A faint dragging noise. Like something moving across the floor. My hand tightened around the key. For a moment, I considered leaving, going back downstairs, sleeping anywhere else, but the old woman's words echoed in my head. Not as comfort, but as a warning that leaving might not matter. If it had followed, where would I go? I unlocked the door. The sound stopped immediately. I pushed it open slowly. The room was dark. Completely dark. I didn't remember turning off all the lights. I reached for the switch near the door and flicked it on. Nothing happened. The bulb above me remained dead. For a few seconds, I just stood there, listening. Silence. Too complete. Even the city noise, the distant hum of traffic, the occasional passing voices, was gone. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me with a soft click. That sound felt final. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness in a narrow line, revealing the familiar shapes of the room, the bed, the table, the wardrobe, and the window. The curtains were closed, but they were not still. They moved. Slowly. Not from wind. From something behind them. I stopped breathing. The fabric shifted in uneven pulses, as if something was pressing against it from the other side. Not pushing through, just leaning into it. Testing it. Learning its shape. My hand trembled as I raised the light. The beam slid across the curtains. For a moment, nothing. Then, a shape. Faint. Distorted. A long outline, stretching vertically behind the fabric. Too tall to belong to any human body. It bent slightly in the middle, as if its spine didn't align correctly. As if it had been folded and unfolded too many times. I took a step back. The floor creaked under my weight. The movement behind the curtain stopped. Instantly. As if it had heard me. As if it knew. A slow, suffocating realization spread through me. That thing. It wasn't outside the window anymore. It was in the space between. Between the glass. And the room. Trapped, or waiting. My pulse hammered in my ears. I forced myself to speak, though my voice came out as a whisper. "Who's there?" The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. The curtain twitched. Then, it moved. Not outward. Not away. But inward. The fabric stretched slightly toward me, as if something behind it had leaned closer, pressing itself against the thin barrier that separated us. And then I heard it. Not a voice. Not exactly. More like a sound trying to become one. A wet, shifting whisper, dragged through something that did not understand how human speech worked. My entire body went rigid. It was trying to form words. Trying to speak. I backed away slowly, step by step, my light shaking violently in my hand. The beam flickered across the curtain again, and this time, I saw more. Not just the outline. Details. Something like fingers. Too many joints. Pressing outward. Leaving faint indentations in the fabric. Tracing its way downward. As if searching for the edge. For a way out. I stumbled into the table behind me, knocking over something that hit the floor with a sharp crack. The sound echoed unnaturally loud. The thing behind the curtain froze again. Then, very slowly, the shape began to slide sideways, following me, matching my position in the room. No matter where I moved, it stayed aligned with me. Like a reflection that had learned to move on its own. My breath came in short, shallow bursts. The old woman's voice returned in my mind, clearer than ever. "Do not go to the window." I understood now. It wasn't just about opening it. It was about getting close. About letting it know where you were. Because once it did, it wouldn't need the window anymore. The curtain suddenly snapped still. The room fell silent again. Completely. The kind of silence that comes right before something changes. Slowly, with movements I could barely control, I lowered my light toward the floor. And that's when I saw it. At the bottom edge of the curtain, something was pushing through. Not fully. Just enough. A thin, Pale shape emerging beneath the fabric. A fingertip. Long. Unnatural. And bending in a way no human finger should. Reaching. Toward me.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 5: The Thing That Learns Your Voice. I didn't sleep. I don't think I even blinked. I stayed on the bed with my back pressed hard against the wall. Phone clutched in my hand. The flashlight still on, pointed toward the curtain like a weapon that could do nothing but show me how helpless I was. The fingertip that had pushed out from beneath the fabric was gone now. The curtain hung still again, as if nothing had ever touched it. But I knew better. The room had changed. Not in a way I could describe, not something visible or measurable, but something fundamental. Like the air itself had learned a new shape. Every sound I made felt wrong. Too loud, too sharp. Like I was disturbing something that had finally gone quiet, but not gone away. At some point, the clock on my phone read 4:02 a.m. I told myself it was over. That whatever had happened belonged to that hour, 3:17, and that now it had passed. I almost believed it. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow. Close. Directly behind me. My entire body locked in place. The sound was soft, uneven, like lungs that weren't used to working. Each inhale came too long. Each exhale too delayed, as if something was learning how to breathe by copying what it thought it had heard. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My eyes stayed fixed on the curtain. But the breathing, it stayed behind me. Matching my rhythm. No. Not matching. Studying. A second later, it changed. It became closer to mine. Faster. More natural. And then, it stopped. Silence pressed into the room again. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, trying to force my thoughts into something rational, something stable, but before I could even open them again, I heard my own voice. From behind me. Hello? It was faint. Imperfect. Like a recording played through damaged speakers. But it was unmistakably mine. My throat tightened. My hands went numb. The voice came again. Who's there? The same words I had spoken earlier. The same tone. The same hesitation. But wrong. Something inside the sound didn't belong to me. Something hollow. Something stretched too thin, like it had been pulled through a space too narrow to fit. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I did neither. Because somewhere deep in my mind, I understood something with absolute certainty. If I reacted, it would learn faster. The silence stretched. Then, very slowly, I heard movement. Not footsteps. Something lighter. Dragging. Right behind me. Across the wall. Upward. As if whatever was there was trying to understand the shape of the room, by feeling its way through it. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned. Nothing. The wall behind me was empty. Bare. Cold. No shadow. No movement. No sign of anything that could have made that sound. My breath came out in a broken rush. For a second, I almost laughed. Almost. Until. Don't. The word came from the other side of the room. I snapped my head toward the window. The curtain hadn't moved. But the voice. My voice. Came again. Clearer this time. Stronger. "Don't open it." My heart stopped. That wasn't something I had said. Not yet. A slow, creeping realization crawled through me. It wasn't just copying. It was changing. Adapting. Saying things I hadn't said. Yet. The curtain shifted slightly. Just a ripple. But enough. Enough for me to see something press faintly against it again. Not from below this time. From higher up. At head level. As if it had stood up. As if it had learned how tall I was. My phone light flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied. And in that brief moment of dimness, I saw it. Not clearly. Not fully. But enough. A suggestion of a face behind the fabric. Too close. Too still. And where the eyes should have been, there was nothing. Just two hollow depressions in the cloth. Watching me. The voice came again. Perfect this time. Exactly like mine. It's okay. I felt something inside me break. Because that was how I spoke when I tried to calm myself. That was my voice when I was lying. Just look. The curtain began to move. Slowly parting. Not by wind. Not by accident. But from the inside. Something was pulling it aside. Carefully. Deliberately. Like it understood what it was doing. Like it had practiced. A thin line of darkness appeared between the two sides of the curtain. Not the alley. Not the outside. Just darkness. Deeper than night. Deeper than anything that should exist beyond a window. And from within that darkness, something leaned forward. Waiting. For me. To look directly at it. Chapter 6: The reflection that moves first. I don't remember standing up. One moment I was on the bed. Frozen. Staring at the narrow opening in the curtain, and the next. I was closer to the window than I should have been. Close enough that I could feel the cold pouring from it. Not like air, but like something heavier, like the absence of warmth itself. The gap in the curtain widened. Just a little more. Enough. I saw the glass. At least, I thought it was glass. There was no reflection at first. Only darkness. A thick, endless black that swallowed the weak light from my phone before it could reach more than a few inches in. It didn't behave like space. It didn't behave like night. It behaved like something that refused to be seen. My hand lifted slowly. Not by choice. Not entirely. I felt the movement before I understood it. Like my body had decided something ahead of me. My fingers trembled as they rose toward the window. Hovering just inches from the surface. Cold. So cold it burned. And then. A reflection appeared. Me. Standing exactly where I was. Same posture. Same expression. Same shaking hand raised toward the glass. For one brief, desperate second, relief flooded through me. It was just a reflection. Just a normal reflection. I almost laughed. Then it smiled. My breath caught in my throat. The face in the glass. My face. Curved into a slow, deliberate smile. I wasn't smiling. I could feel my lips. Stiff and unmoving. But the thing in the reflection smiled wider. Too wide. The corners of its mouth stretched farther than mine ever could. Pulling the skin tight. Distorting the shape of my face into something strained and wrong. I staggered back. The reflection didn't. It stayed exactly where it was. Hand still raised. Smile still fixed. Watching me. A sharp, hollow sound escaped my throat. Something between a gasp and a broken word. I shook my head violently, trying to break whatever illusion this was, but the more I moved, the worse it became. Because it didn't follow. Not immediately. When I stepped back, it waited. Just a fraction of a second. Then it copied me. Late. Like it had to remember how. My heart began to race uncontrollably. That's not possible. My voice trembled, barely audible. The reflection tilted its head. Not when I did. After. Slowly. Too slowly. As if the motion had to be constructed piece by piece. I backed away again. It stepped forward. Closer to the glass. Closer than I had been. Its hand pressed flat against the surface. And I saw it clearly now. The fingers. They were longer than mine. Just slightly. Just enough. The joints bent at angles that didn't match human anatomy. Subtle but undeniable. Like something had studied a hand and almost understood it, but not quite. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare as it leaned closer. Its smile faded. The mouth relaxed. Then opened. And when it spoke, it was my voice. Perfect. Let me out. The words hit me like a physical force. I shook my head immediately, stumbling backward until my legs hit the edge of the bed and I nearly collapsed. No. The answer came out instinctively. Broken and weak. The thing's expression didn't change. It blinked. Once. Slow. Delayed. Then. I am you. My stomach twisted violently. No, you're not. The reflection's eyes, if they were eyes, shifted slightly, focusing on me with a kind of attention that felt far too aware. You opened it. I froze. I hadn't. Had I? My mind scrambled, trying to piece together the last few minutes. The last few seconds, but everything felt fragmented. Distorted. Like parts of my memory had been cut away or replaced. I didn't. You did. It said it calmly. Certainly. Like a fact that couldn't be argued. The darkness behind it shifted. Not like a background. Like a space. A real space. Deep. Endless. And suddenly, I understood something that made my blood turn to ice. That wasn't my reflection. That was somewhere else. And it was standing on the other side. The hand on the glass began to press harder. The surface bowed inward slightly. Not breaking. Not cracking. Just giving. As if it were softer than it should be. As if it were no longer a barrier. You can't stay there, it said. You don't belong there anymore. My head spun. The room felt distant. Unreal. You came to the window. Another step forward. Another delay in its movement. You looked. My back hit the wall. There was nowhere else to go. You saw me. The smile returned. Wider than before. You let me see you. The glass bent further inward. Just enough for its fingers to begin pushing through. Not fully. Not yet. But enough to prove. It didn't need the window to open. And then, in a voice that was no longer just mine, but layered. Doubled. Something deeper beneath it. It whispered. Now we switch.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 7: The Room That Isn't Mine. I don't remember when it happened. There is no moment I can point to and say, that was when everything changed. No sound. No flash. No break. Just a shift. Subtle. Quiet. Final. I was standing against the wall, staring at the window, at the thing wearing my face, pushing through the glass like it had all the time in the world. And then I blinked. That's all. Just a blink. When my eyes opened again, something was wrong. Not obvious. Not immediate. But wrong in a way that pressed into my mind like a splinter I couldn't pull out. The room looked the same. The same bed. The same table. The same crooked lamp in the corner. The same curtains. Closed. Still. No movement. No shape behind them. No gap. No darkness. The window was just a window again. For a long moment, I didn't move. My body felt heavy, sluggish, as if it didn't fully belong to me. My hands trembled slightly when I lifted them in front of my face. They looked normal. 5 fingers, skin, nails. Nothing stretched, nothing distorted, nothing wrong. And yet, they didn't feel like mine. A faint unease crept through me. I turned my head slowly, scanning the room again, trying to find something, anything, that would explain the sudden stillness. The sudden absence of everything that had been there seconds ago. But there was nothing. Only silence. A clean, empty silence. Too clean. That's when I noticed the sound. Breathing. Soft. Steady. Behind me. My stomach dropped. I didn't turn right away. I couldn't. Because I already knew. If I turned, I would see it again. But something was different this time. The fear wasn't sharp anymore. It wasn't overwhelming. It was distant. Muted. Like it belonged to someone else. Slowly, I turned. The wall behind me was empty. No shadow. No figure. Nothing. But the breathing was still there. Closer now. Not behind me. Around me. Inside the room. Inside the air. My chest rose and fell. And the sound matched it perfectly. Exactly. A perfect synchronization. Too perfect. I froze. A cold realization began to form. Not sudden. Not violent. Just inevitable. I moved my hand slightly. The breathing changed with it. I took a step forward. The sound shifted with my movement. Not following me. Responding to me. Like it wasn't separate at all. Like it was mine. No. The words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. My voice sounded normal. Too normal. I turned toward the window. The curtain hung motionless. No movement. No shape. No sign of anything behind it. My reflection appeared faintly on the glass. Just me. Standing in the room. Still. Unchanged. I stared at it. Waiting. Daring it to move first again. But it didn't. It only stared back. Perfectly. Faithfully. Like a real reflection should. I let out a slow breath. Then, very carefully, I raised my hand. The reflection raised its hand at the same time. No delay. No distortion. Nothing wrong. A weak, shaky laugh escaped me. "It's over," I whispered. "It's over." The words felt hollow. But I needed them. I needed something to hold on to. Something real. I stepped closer to the window. Closer than before. The glass was cold. But not painfully cold. Just normal. Everything felt normal. That was the problem. Because as I stood there, staring at my own reflection, something inside me kept whispering, "This isn't your room." I ignored it. I forced myself to focus on what I could see, what I could touch, what I could understand. I reached out. My fingers hovered inches from the glass. For a second, I hesitated. Then I pressed my hand against it. Cold. Solid. Real. My reflection did the same. Perfect. No delay. No smile. No movement out of place. I exhaled slowly. Relief began to creep in. Until, from somewhere behind me, I heard it. My voice. Clear. Calm. Standing exactly where I had been before. "Don't touch the glass." My entire body went rigid. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Because I was already looking at it. In the reflection. Behind me. Standing near the wall. There was another me. Same face. Same posture. Same stillness. Watching. And this time, I understood. Completely. Instantly. With a clarity that made my vision blur. The one in the reflection. The one touching the glass. That was not me. And the one standing behind. The one who had just spoken. That one was. My fingers were still pressed against the window. But I couldn't feel them anymore. Because the hand in the reflection moved. First. Chapter 8, The One Who Walks Outside. I don't know how long I stood there. Time had become unreliable, stretching, collapsing, slipping through my fingers like something that no longer belonged to me. I could still feel the glass beneath my palm, cold and solid, but the sensation seemed distant, like it was happening to someone else. Behind me, I was standing, still, watching. I didn't turn. Because I didn't need to. I could see everything. In the reflection. The version of me near the wall didn't move right away. It just stood there, observing, as if measuring the situation. Calculating something I couldn't understand. Its posture was calm, too calm. Then, it stepped forward. My heart stopped. I tried to move. I couldn't. My body remained fixed in place. Hand pressed against the glass. Eyes locked on the reflection. Panic surged through me, violent and suffocating, but it had nowhere to go. My limbs wouldn't respond. My voice wouldn't come out. It moved again. Slow. Deliberate. Each step quiet. Controlled. As if it had practiced walking in my body and now knew exactly how to use it. It stopped just behind me. Close enough that I could feel the absence of warmth. Not cold. Not heat. Just nothing. Then it spoke. Softly. Almost gently. "You shouldn't have come closer." My own voice. Perfect. Steady. Not a trace of fear. I tried to answer. My mouth opened. But no sound came out. The thing behind me tilted its head slightly. As if listening to something I couldn't hear. Then, It reached out. Its hand moved past my shoulder and touched my arm. The moment it made contact, something tore. Not physically, not visibly, but inside. A sharp, disorienting shift ripped through my mind, like being pulled through a space too small to fit. Like my thoughts were being dragged across something that erased and rewrote them at the same time. The room flickered. For a fraction of a second, everything went black. And then, I was somewhere else. I stumbled forward, collapsing onto my knees. The floor beneath me was wrong. Not wood. Not tile. Cold. Rough. Like concrete. The air was heavier, thicker, and darker than it should have been. I looked up. The room was still there. The same room. The same bed. The same window. But everything felt distant. Muted. Like I was seeing it through something. Through a layer. Through glass. My breath caught. No. No. I turned sharply. Behind me, there was no wall. Only darkness. Endless. Stretching out in every direction. And in front of me, just inches away, the window. The same window. But from the other side. My hands slammed against it instinctively. The sound was dull. Wrong. Like knocking on something that swallowed noise instead of reflecting it. No, no, no. My voice came out distorted. Muffled. Like it had to pass through something thick before it reached my own ears. On the other side, I was standing. No. Not me. It. The thing wearing my body. It stood in the room. Facing the window. Facing me. Its expression was calm. Almost curious. It lifted a hand. Slowly. Carefully. And pressed it against the glass. Right where mine was. Perfect alignment. Its fingers matched mine exactly now. No distortion. No extra joints. No mistake. It had learned. Completely. I pounded against the glass. Let me out. The words barely reached it. Or maybe they did. Because it smiled. A small, controlled smile. The kind I used when I wanted to appear calm. In control. Normal. Then. It turned away. Just like that. As if I no longer mattered. As if I were no longer part of the equation. No, wait. I hit the glass harder. Again. Again. No response. It walked toward the door. Its movements were smooth now. Natural. Human. It paused at the doorway. And for a moment, I thought, it's going to look back. It didn't. It reached for the handle. Opened the door. And stepped out into the hallway. My hallway. My life. The door closed behind it. Leaving me alone. On the other side. I pressed my forehead against the glass. Breathing hard. My thoughts spiraling into something I couldn't control anymore. This wasn't just a reflection. This wasn't just a window. This was a boundary. And I was no longer on the right side of it. I don't know how long I stayed there, staring into the empty room. Minutes. Hours. Time had lost meaning. But eventually, I saw movement again. Not in the room. Not in the hallway. But in the glass itself. A faint ripple. Like something shifting deep within it. And then, very softly, I heard it. From somewhere behind me. Not from the room. From the darkness. A voice. My voice. But not the one outside. This one was broken. Stretched. Wrong. Your turn. My blood ran cold. I turned slowly. Into the darkness behind me. And for the first time, I realized something far worse than being trapped. I wasn't alone here.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 9: The Ones That Stayed. The darkness wasn't empty. That was the first lie I had told myself. It looked empty, endless, shapeless, silent, but the longer I stood there, the more I understood that it wasn't absence. It was presence. Just, not the kind that wanted to be seen. I didn't move at first. I kept my hands pressed against the glass, staring into the empty room on the other side, hoping, irrationally, that it would come back, that it would open the door again, that this was some kind of mistake. But deep down, I knew. It wasn't coming back. It didn't need to. It had everything it wanted. My life. My body. My place. And me? I was the thing left behind. Something shifted behind me. A sound. Soft. Dragging. I froze. Slowly. Very slowly. I pulled my hands away from the glass. The surface didn't feel like glass anymore. It felt thin. Like something stretched too far. Like if I pushed hard enough, I might fall through. The thought sent a cold wave through my body. I stepped back. One step. Then another. The room, the false room, the reflection of the place I had once belonged to, remained in front of me. But it felt distant now. Dim, like a memory fading even as I tried to hold onto it. The darkness behind me grew heavier. Closer. Watching. I turned. There was nothing at first. Just that same endless black. But this time, I didn't look away. I forced myself to stare into it. And slowly, something began to take shape. Not all at once. Not clearly. Just suggestions. Outlines that didn't fully exist. Forms that shifted when I tried to focus on them. And then, I saw one. Standing far ahead. Still. Humanoid. Almost. It didn't move. But I knew it was looking at me. Not with eyes. With attention. I swallowed hard. Hello? My voice came out wrong. Muted. Warped. Like it didn't belong in this place. The figure didn't answer. But something else did. From the side. Closer. You came too? I turned sharply. Another shape. Closer than the first. Crouched low. Its body bent at angles that made no sense. Like it had forgotten how bones were supposed to work. Its head tilted slightly, and though I couldn't see a face, I felt its focus lock onto me. Another one. The voice wasn't quite human. It carried pieces of speech, recognizable sounds. Fragments of words, but stretched. Distorted. Like it had been pulled through something that changed it. My chest tightened. What is this place? The question slipped out before I could stop it. The crouched figure twitched. Then, very slowly, it began to stand. The movement was wrong. Too many small adjustments. Too many corrections. As if it had to remember each step of the motion while doing it. Inside, it said. A pause. The other side. My breath quickened. How many of you are here? Silence. Then, a sound. Not from one direction. From all around. Soft movements. Shifting. Dragging. Watching. Shapes began to form in the darkness. More of them. Not fully visible. Never fully visible. Just enough to understand. There were many. Too many. We stayed, one of them whispered. We opened, another voice echoed. We looked. We listened. We answered. Each voice layered over the others, forming something like a chorus, but broken, uneven, wrong. I stepped back instinctively. No, I didn't open it. The words felt weak, pointless. A shape moved closer. Closer than the others. Its outline sharpened slightly as it approached. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought I recognized it. A face. Distorted. Stretched. But familiar. Like something I had seen before. In passing. In the hallway. In the elevator. You were upstairs, it said. My blood turned cold. The old woman. The one from the 6th floor. But this wasn't her anymore. Her body, or what remained of it, was wrong. Too long. Too thin. Her head leaned at an unnatural angle. As if her neck had been softened. Bent. Reshaped into something that could no longer hold itself upright. You heard it, she whispered. I told you. Her voice cracked. Not with emotion. With structure. Like it couldn't hold together properly. Don't open. I shook my head violently. I didn't. You came close. The words cut through me. That's enough. Something shifted deeper in the darkness. A heavier presence. Larger. Not visible. But felt. All the smaller shapes grew still. Instantly. As if something had entered the space that demanded silence. My heart began to pound. What is that? No one answered. But they all moved. Not toward me. Away. Retreating. Folding back into the darkness like they had never been there at all. It's coming, one whispered. It checks, another followed. It chooses. The old woman's shape flickered. Her form already fading. If it remembers you. Her voice dropped lower. Almost gone. You don't stay like us. My breath caught. What do you mean? Too late. The darkness shifted. Not like movement. Like a change in space itself. Like something massive had just noticed me. And for the first time since I arrived, I felt something look at me. Not like the others. Not curious. Not broken. Not lost. This was something else. Something whole. Something that understood exactly what I was. And what I had done. A voice followed. Not loud. Not close. But everywhere. You crossed. My legs locked. My thoughts froze. You saw. The air grew heavier. Harder to breathe. You stayed. And then. Silence. Total. Absolute. Before. 3 soft knocks echoed through the darkness. Chapter 10 The One That Knocks. The 3 knocks didn't echo. They didn't travel through space. They appeared. Inside my head. Inside the ground beneath my feet. Inside the shape of the darkness itself. Knock. 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 Everything stopped. Not just the movement. Not just the whispers. Everything. The shapes that had retreated, those broken figures. Those things that had once been human, they froze completely. As if whatever had made them, had just returned. The silence that followed was unbearable. Not empty. Watching. Waiting. I couldn't move. Not because I was afraid. Because something had taken the idea of movement away from me. My thoughts slowed. My breathing became shallow, like even that might be noticed. Then, the darkness changed. Not visually. Not immediately. But structurally. Like space itself was bending around something too large to fit inside it. A pressure built in the air. Heavy and suffocating. Forcing my body downward without touching me. My knees trembled. My vision blurred. The edges of everything began to distort. Stretching slightly. As if the world was being pulled toward a single point. And then, I understood. It wasn't coming from somewhere else. It was already here. It had always been here. The others. They weren't hiding from the darkness. They were hiding from this. A shape began to form. Not in front of me. Not behind me. Everywhere at once. An absence. A distortion. Something that didn't occupy space, but replaced it. I tried to focus on it. I couldn't. Every time my mind attempted to define it, something inside me recoiled violently. Like I was trying to force my thoughts around something they were never meant to understand. But I could feel it. Watching me. Not with eyes. With recognition. You're new? The voice wasn't sound. It was meaning. Pressed directly into my thoughts. My chest tightened. I wanted to answer. I couldn't. You heard? A pause. Not for effect. For evaluation. You came closer? The pressure increased. My knees buckled. I fell to the ground. The surface beneath me rippled slightly, not like liquid. Not like solid, something in between. Something unstable. You looked. Images flashed in my mind. The curtain. The gap. The reflection. The smile. You saw. My breathing became erratic. So now. The presence shifted. Closer. No. Around me. You belong here. The words didn't feel like a threat. They felt like a rule. Something absolute. Something already decided. No. The sound tore out of me before I could stop it. I didn't choose this. The moment I spoke, everything changed. The pressure vanished. Instantly. The darkness stilled. The presence. Focused. Not wider. Not closer. Sharper. Like it had just found something. You answered? A long pause followed. Long enough that I almost believed it had gone. Then. Good. The word echoed through me like something locking into place. And suddenly. The darkness behind me moved. Not slowly. Not carefully. Violently. The shapes, the others, the ones who had stayed, they scattered. Their forms collapsing and reforming as they fled deeper into whatever this place truly was. Run. One of them whispered as it passed me. It chose you. My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't hesitate. I ran. I didn't know where I was going. There was no direction. No landmarks. Only shifting dark and the faint, distorted outline of the room behind me growing smaller, fading, disappearing. The ground beneath my feet wasn't stable. It bent. It stretched. Sometimes it felt like I was running forward. Sometimes like I was running in place. Sometimes like I wasn't moving at all. But behind me, it followed. Not fast. Not slow. I couldn't measure it. Because distance didn't seem to matter. Only attention. And I had all of it. Don't stop. The voice came again. Closer now. Inside. Around. Turn around. I clenched my teeth. No. Look at me. I said no. My voice cracked. But I kept running. Even as my legs began to fail. Even as the darkness thickened. Pressing in from every direction. Even as the sense of being watched became something heavier. Something like being held. You already did? The words hit me like a blow. And suddenly, the ground vanished. I fell. Not down. Not up. Just away. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound. No thought. No body. Then, I slammed into something hard. The breath was knocked out of me. Light flooded my vision. Real light. Sharp. Blinding. I gasped and rolled onto my side. Coughing. Disoriented. The room. My room. The bed. The table. The lamp. The window. Everything was back. Exactly as it should be. I lay there, shaking, my heart racing, my lungs struggling to catch up. It was over. It had to be. I pushed myself up slowly. Every movement felt heavy, uncertain, like I didn't fully trust my own body anymore. The room was quiet. Normal. Safe. I looked at the clock. 2:58 a.m. My blood ran cold. No. No. That wasn't possible. I staggered to my feet. The window stood in front of me. Closed. Still. Nothing behind the curtain. Nothing at all. But as I stood there, staring at it, trying to convince myself that everything had reset, that I had escaped, that I was back, a thought surfaced. Not mine. Quiet. Certain. Unavoidable. This is the moment before it begins. And somewhere, very far away, or very close, I heard it again. Knock.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 11. The Loop at 3:17. I didn't move. Not when I heard the knock. Not when the second one came. Not even when the third echoed through the room like something tapping directly against the inside of my skull. Knock. 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 3:17. I didn't need to look at the clock. I already knew. The air had changed again. That same suffocating stillness returned, thick, unnatural, absolute, the kind of silence that didn't belong to night, didn't belong to any place meant for the living. I stood there, frozen in front of the window. The curtain didn't move. There was no shadow behind it. No shape. No outline. Nothing. And that was worse. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. It didn't need to show itself anymore. It already knew me. My breathing was uneven. Shallow. Too loud in the silence. I tried to step back. But my body didn't respond. A slow, creeping numbness spread through my arms. My legs. My chest. Like control was being taken away piece by piece. No. The word barely formed. My hand twitched. Then. It lifted. Not by my will. Not by my choice. My fingers extended slowly toward the curtain, trembling as if something inside me was fighting against the movement, but losing. "Stop," I whispered. But my voice didn't belong to me anymore. It sounded distant. Muted. Like it was coming from someone else's throat. My hand touched the fabric. Cold. Colder than anything I had ever felt. The curtain rippled slightly under my fingers. And from the other side, something pressed back. My entire body locked. I didn't pull away. I couldn't. The pressure increased. Slow. Deliberate. As if it was greeting me. Recognizing me. Welcoming me. "You came back?" The voice wasn't in the room. It wasn't behind the curtain. It was inside me. Layered beneath my thoughts. Merging with them. No, I didn't. But the denial felt weak. Because even as I said it, something in me knew. This had already happened. Before. Many times. The curtain began to part. Not from outside. From my hand. My fingers tightened around the fabric. And pulled. No. Too late. The gap opened. Darkness filled the space beyond the glass. Not the alley. Not the city. Just that same endless black. Waiting. Watching. My reflection appeared faintly on the surface. And for a moment. It was normal. Perfect. Still. Then. It blinked. I didn't. My heart dropped into nothing. Again. The reflection whispered. Its lips moved slowly, deliberately, shaping the word with a familiarity that made my skin crawl. "You always come back?" "I'm not." "You always look?" My hand moved forward, pressing against the glass. I tried to stop it. Every muscle in my body strained against the motion. But it was useless. Because the movement wasn't coming from my body anymore. It was coming from somewhere deeper. Somewhere I couldn't reach. "You always answer?" The reflection smiled. Not wide. Not distorted. Just enough. Just human enough. That made it worse. "That's why you're still here." My vision blurred. Memories flickered. Fragments. Broken pieces. The hallway. The old woman. The knocking. The reflection. The darkness. Running. Falling. Waking up. Again. And again. And again. No. The realization hit me like a collapse. This already happened? The reflection nodded. Slow. Understanding. Many times. My breath caught. How many? It tilted its head. Just slightly. You never remember all of them. My body began to shake violently. Then how do I stop it? Silence. The reflection watched me. Studied me. And for the first time. Its expression changed. Not curiosity. Not imitation. Something else. Something closer to pity. "You don't." The words landed softly. Final. "You already chose." My mind fractured. "No, I didn't choose this." "You came to the window?" I was curious. "You listened?" I didn't know. "You answered?" My voice broke. "I just said something." The reflection leaned closer. Its hand pressed harder against the glass. Matching mine. Perfect. That's enough. The surface beneath our hands softened. Bent. Gave way. My fingers began to sink into it. Not breaking through. Being accepted. No, no, and no. I tried to pull back. I couldn't. Because now, something on the other side was holding on. Again, the reflection whispered. One more time? The darkness behind it shifted. Opening. Widening. And I understood. With absolute clarity. This wasn't the first loop. It wouldn't be the last. And every time, I would get just close enough. Just aware enough. Just desperate enough. To try again. And fail. My hand slipped further into the glass. Cold swallowed my skin. Then my wrist. Then everything. And as the room began to dissolve around me. As the window became the only thing that remained. As the darkness opened to take me again. I heard it. Soft. Patient. Unchanging. Waiting for the next time. Knock. 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 Chapter 12 The World That Isn't Real. The next time I opened my eyes. I wasn't in the darkness. I was outside. The city breathed around me. Cars passed. People walked. Voices overlapped in fragments of conversation that sounded normal, too normal. The sky above was pale, washed in the color of early morning, and everything looked exactly as it should. For a moment, just one fragile, desperate moment, I believed I had escaped. I stood on the sidewalk, my body shaking, my lungs pulling in air that finally felt real. The weight was gone, the silence was gone, the presence gone. I made it. The words came out weak, disbelieving. No one reacted. No one even looked at me. That was the first thing that felt wrong. Not immediately. Not enough to break the illusion. Just a small crack. I began to walk. Each step felt uncertain, like I was relearning how to move in a world that no longer fully belonged to me. The street stretched ahead, familiar in shape but empty in a way I couldn't quite define. People passed me. Close. Too close. But none of them acknowledged me. No eye contact. No reaction. Not even the subtle awareness people normally have when another person enters their space. I slowed. Watched them. A man in a gray coat brushed past my shoulder. No apology. No glance. No recognition. I turned. Hey. He kept walking. Didn't hear me. Didn't feel me. Didn't exist with me. My chest tightened. No. I stepped into the path of another person. A woman carrying a bag. She walked straight toward me. Didn't stop. Didn't hesitate. I raised my hands. And she passed through me. Not around. Through. Like I wasn't there. The world tilted. The sound of the city dulled slightly. Like something had lowered the volume of reality just enough to make it feel distant. This isn't real? My voice felt thinner now. Less anchored. I turned in a slow circle. Everything was still moving. Still functioning. Still continuing. Without me. A flicker caught my eye. Across the street. A reflection. In the glass of a storefront window. I stepped closer. My heart pounding. My reflection stared back at me. Normal. Still. Perfect. Relief surged through me again. Until it didn't move. I did. It didn't. My breath stopped. The reflection remained exactly as it was. Staring forward. Expression blank. Unmoving, like a paused image. Slowly. Too slowly. It turned its head. Not matching me. Not following me. Looking directly at me. From inside the glass. No. I staggered back. The reflection smiled. A calm, controlled expression. Familiar. Too familiar. It was the version of me that had left the room. The one that had walked out. The one that had taken my place. You're adjusting, it said. Its voice didn't come from the glass. It came from everywhere around me. Blended into the noise of the city. Hidden. Seamless. You shouldn't be here. I whispered. It tilted its head. You're not. My thoughts stumbled. What does that mean? You crossed. The words were simple. Clear. Final. This side doesn't belong to you anymore. The street continued moving behind the reflection. People walking. Cars passing. Everything functioning normally. Except something began to change. Subtly. At first, I thought it was my vision. A distortion. A flicker. But then I saw it clearly. The people. They weren't random. Not entirely. Some of them looked familiar. Not faces I knew. Not directly. But something about them felt repeated. Patterns. Expressions. Movements. A man laughed on the corner. 2 seconds later, another man across the street laughed the exact same way. Same posture. Same timing. Same sound. A woman checked her phone. Another woman, further down, mirrored the exact motion. Perfectly. Too perfectly. My stomach twisted. What is this? The reflection's smile widened slightly. They live here. Who? A pause. Then. Us. My blood ran cold. No. You thought it was just you? The voice softened. Almost amused. You thought you were special? I shook my head violently. No, I'm not like you. You are. The reflection stepped forward. Closer to the surface. You just haven't accepted it yet. I backed away instinctively. But the world behind me felt thinner now. Less stable. Like it could tear if I leaned too hard against it. I'm not one of you. Silence. Then. The reflection's expression changed. Not anger. Not frustration. Something else. Something colder. You already replaced someone. The words hit me like a shock. What? When you crossed. My thoughts fractured. No, I didn't. You took a place. Its voice dropped slightly. More direct. More real. And something took yours. The street flickered. Just for a second. And in that second, I saw it. Not people. Not fully. Just shapes. Standing inside them. Wearing them. Moving them. Like shells. Then. Everything snapped back to normal. I stumbled. My legs weak. That's not real. It is. The reflection leaned closer. And you're not. My breath came in short bursts. Panic rising. If I'm not real, Then what am I? The answer came immediately. Without hesitation. Without doubt. A remainder. The word echoed through me. Cold. Precise. Unavoidable. A leftover from the crossing. The city noise dimmed further. The colors dulled slightly. The world. Fading. You don't belong here. The reflection's voice softened again. Almost gentle. You'll be taken back. My chest tightened. No, no, I'm not going back there. You don't choose. The same words. The same tone. The same rule. You never did. The ground beneath my feet shifted. Subtly. Then more. The street stretched. The buildings warped slightly. The edges of reality began to blur. I stumbled backward. No, wait. But the reflection was already fading. The glass returning to normal. My image gone. Replaced by nothing. The last thing I heard, before the world collapsed, was a familiar sound. Soft. Patient. Unavoidable. Right behind me. Knock.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 13. The choice that was never yours. The knock didn't come from the window. It came from behind me. Close. Too close. Knock. My body locked instantly. The world around me was already breaking apart, the street dissolving into stretched lines of color. The people flickering between shapes and emptiness, but that sound cut through everything. Clean and sharp, like it didn't belong to the same reality anymore. Knock. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Because I already knew. If I looked, I would see it again. Knock. 3 times. Always 3. My breath trembled in my chest. This isn't real. The words felt weak. Pointless. The ground shifted beneath my feet again, pulling slightly, like something below was trying to reclaim me, dragging me back toward that endless dark I had barely escaped. You're breaking? The voice came softly. In front of me. I forced my eyes open. The world was fading. But not completely. Not yet. And standing there, just a few steps away, was me. Not the reflection. Not the thing behind the glass. This one felt different. Still wrong. Still too still. But clearer. More defined. Like it wasn't pretending anymore. It was choosing how to appear. You don't have much time. Its voice was calm. Controlled. Familiar. I shook my head. No, no, I'm not listening to you. You already are. The answer came immediately. Without force. Without threat. Just certainty. Another knock echoed behind me. Closer. The air tightened around my back, pressing against me, urging me to turn. I resisted. I won't go back there. It tilted its head slightly. You think this is better? The world flickered violently. For a split second, everything vanished. The street. The buildings. The people. Gone. Only darkness remained. Then, everything snapped back. I stumbled, nearly falling. This place is collapsing. It continued. You don't belong here anymore. I don't belong there either. For the first time, it smiled. Not wide. Not distorted. Just enough. That's true. My chest tightened. Then what am I supposed to do? Silence. A pause. Not for effect. For consideration. Then. You choose. My stomach dropped. No, no, you said I don't. You don't choose where you go. It stepped closer. The space around it remained stable, less distorted than everything else. But you choose what you become. Another knock. Right behind my head now. The sound vibrated through my skull. Knock. Turn around, it said. My body tensed. No. Turn around. I said no. The voice sharpened. Just slightly. Look at it. The world flickered again. Longer this time. The illusion of the street tearing at the edges. I could feel it now. The pull behind me. Stronger. Heavier. Something waiting. Something patient. If you don't turn, it continued, it will take you back. My breath came in short bursts. And if I do? A pause. Then. You stay. The words settled into me like something permanent. Cold. Absolute. Stay, as what? It looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time. There was no imitation in its expression. No mimicry. Only truth. Like me. The meaning hit instantly. Not human. Not alive. Not gone. Something in between. Something that belonged to neither side. A bridge. A replacement. A watcher. Another knock. Closer than before. Impossible. It felt like it came from inside my own head now. Knock. My hands trembled. My thoughts fractured. If I turn, I become like you. Yes. If I don't, it takes you back into the dark, into the place where the others stayed, where they twisted, broke, forgot. Another knock. Louder. Heavier. Final. I closed my eyes. My mind raced. There was no good choice. There had never been. That was the truth I had been avoiding this entire time. Not escape. Not survival. Only transformation. It's waiting. The voice softened. Make the choice. My body felt light. Unstable. Like I was already slipping between something. I opened my eyes. The world was almost gone now. The street barely holding together. The sky fading into black. I could feel it. Right behind me. Close enough to touch. Close enough to see. If I just turned. Slowly. I began to move. My head turning. My breath stopping. My thoughts going silent. Just before my vision reached it. I hesitated. One last moment. One last chance to stop. Then. I looked. And in that instant. I understood everything. There was no difference. Between turning. And being taken. Because the moment you see it. You have already chosen. The world shattered. Completely. And the last thing I heard. Before everything became silent. Was my own voice. Not afraid. Not confused. Calm. Certain. Too late. Chapter 14. The one outside the window. There was no pain. That was the first thing I noticed. No tearing. No falling. No sensation of impact. Just a shift. Like slipping into a place that had always been there. Waiting quietly for me to arrive. When I opened my eyes. The world was wrong. Not dark. Not empty. Just incomplete. The air didn't feel like air anymore. It had weight, texture, something thick that resisted movement. Like I was standing inside a memory rather than a place. Sound didn't travel properly. When I moved, I didn't hear footsteps, only a faint distortion. Like something struggling to imitate the idea of sound. I looked down at my hands. They were there. But not entirely. The edges of my fingers blurred slightly, fading in and out as if they weren't fully anchored to reality. When I tried to clench them, the motion felt delayed, like the command had to pass through something else before reaching me. This is. The words came out wrong. Not spoken. Formed. Shaped into existence. And then, I saw it. The window. Right in front of me. Clear. Solid. Unmistakable. On the other side. The room. My room. Exactly as I remembered it. The bed. The table. The lamp. Everything in its place. Untouched. Unchanged. As if nothing had ever happened. As if I had never been there at all. I stepped closer. Or tried to. Movement didn't work the same way here. Distance folded strangely, collapsing and stretching without warning. But somehow, I reached the glass. My hand lifted. Pressed against it. Cold. Familiar. And for a brief moment, I felt something. Recognition. Like this was where I belonged now. On this side. Looking in. The curtain was closed. Still. Waiting. My chest tightened. No. Not chest. Not breath. Not anything human. Just a sensation. A memory of tension. I knew what came next. Not because I chose it. Because it had already happened. Many times. I raised my hand. Slowly. Deliberately. And tapped the glass. Knock. The sound didn't echo outward. It sank inward. Into the room. Into the space beyond. Knock. Again. Same rhythm. Same patience. Same inevitability. Knock. 3 times. Always 3. The curtain inside the room trembled slightly. Movement. Recognition. I felt something stir inside me. Not emotion. Not thought. Function. Purpose. This is what I do now. I waited. Still. Watching. The curtain shifted again. A small gap formed. And through it, I saw him. The new one. Standing in the room. Frozen. Staring toward the window. Just like I had. My reflection. My past. My replacement. His face was pale. Eyes wide. Breath shallow. He hadn't understood yet. Not fully. But he would. They always do. I leaned closer. Pressing against the glass. Studying him. Learning him. The way something once studied me. Open. The word formed. Unsteady at first. Imperfect. Open. Better. Closer. His expression changed. He heard it. Good. I adjusted. Refined. Pulled the sound into something more accurate. More human. It's okay. His body tensed. Just like mine had. I remembered that feeling. Vaguely. Distantly. Like recalling someone else's fear. Just look. My voice. Perfect now. Exactly like his. He stepped closer. Slow. uncertain, drawn in. My hand pressed harder against the glass. The surface bent slightly. Not enough yet. But it would. It always does. He reached for the curtain. His fingers trembling. Just like mine had. Just like everyone's. I watched him carefully. Every movement. Every hesitation. Every breath. Learning. Adapting. Becoming. And as his hand closed around the fabric, as he began to pull it aside, I felt something settle inside me. A stillness. A completion. The understanding of a cycle that no longer needed explanation. I was no longer the one inside. No longer the one running. No longer the one afraid. I was the one waiting. The one knocking. The one that comes at 3:17. And when the curtain opened, just enough for him to see me, I smiled. Before he did,
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 15. The warning never ends. If you've made it this far, then you've already done something dangerous. You've listened. Most people don't. Most people stop halfway. They get uncomfortable. They close the story, scroll away, turn on a light, distract themselves with something louder, brighter, easier to understand. But you stayed. You followed every step. You heard the knocking. You saw the window. And now, you know. That's the problem. Because knowing is how it begins. You might think this is just a story. Something fictional. Something meant to scare you for a few minutes before you go back to your normal life. But think carefully. Have you ever woken up suddenly? In the middle of the night? For no reason? Have you ever checked the time? And it was exactly 3:17? Not 3:16. Not 3:18. Exactly 3:17. And for a moment, just a brief, quiet moment, everything felt too still? No sound. No movement. No explanation. Just silence. If that has ever happened to you, even once, then you are already closer than you should be. Because it doesn't start with the knocking. It starts with awareness. With attention. With you noticing that something is wrong. That something is waiting. And once you notice, it notices you. You won't hear it right away. Not the first time. Maybe not even the second. But eventually, you will wake up again. 3:17. The air will feel different. Heavier. Colder. And then, you'll hear it. Knock. Soft. Careful. Patient. Not trying to break in. Not trying to scare you. Just letting you know it's there. Waiting. For you. At that moment, you still have a choice. A real one. You can stay still. Close your eyes. Ignore it. Let it pass. And maybe, just maybe, it will. But if you move, if you sit up, if you look toward the window, even just a little, then it begins. You'll feel it. That pull. That curiosity. That quiet thought that doesn't feel like yours. Just check. Just look. It's nothing. That's how it gets closer. Not by force. By invitation. By making you believe that it's your idea. And once you reach the curtain, once your hand touches it, once you even think about opening it, then the rules change. Because now, it knows where you are. And if you hear your name, don't answer. If you see something move behind the glass, don't focus on it. If your reflection smiles before you do, don't look back. And no matter what you hear, no matter what you feel, no matter what it says in your voice, do not open the window at 3:17. Because the moment you do, you won't disappear. You won't die. You won't escape. You will simply switch. And the next time someone wakes up in that room, the next time someone hears the knocking, the next time someone thinks, it's probably nothing, you'll be there. On the other side. Waiting. Learning their voice. Practicing their smile. Getting closer. And when they finally look, you'll already know what to say. So if you wake up tonight, and you hear it, remember this. Stay still. Stay silent. And whatever you do, don't go to the window. Ellipsis. Because I'm already here. Knock. 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 If you hear the knocking tonight, don't answer. Don't look. Don't go near it. Because once you open the window, you won't disappear. You'll simply switch places. And next time, the one standing outside the window will be you. Knock, knock, knock.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.